Well, there's a lot more bothering on the economy because there's a warning coming through from the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. They are warning of an imminent food shortage across the country. The group attributes the situation to the unavailability of subsidized fertilizers to farmers due to the outstanding debts owed suppliers by government. Government has an outstanding debt of some 346 million cedis to settle, as a situation which is reportedly crippling the sector. So, how do we address this, and what's the best option for government to adopt in the face of this damning reports? Joining us now is Dr. Charles Nyaba. He's the Head of Programs and Advocacy at the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. So, how soon are we to experience the effects of what it is that your association is talking about?
Okay. Good evening. Let me correct I'm the Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, not the Head of Programs and Advocacy. Our earlier predictions that food prices will continue to rise was based on several factors, which is related to cost of production, climate-related issues, global development. That makes it difficult for us to actually access certain inputs that will allow us to continue to produce at a lower cost. All those factors haven't changed as we stand. So we are not actually seeing any changes from now until 2023. So we earlier on made some proposals, and those proposals has to be how government can come in to intervene to ensure that cost of production is reduced. Because if cost of production is reduced, you're able to also sell it at a price for ordinary Ghanaian to be able to purchase. But those proposals, we are yet to actually get positive response from government. One has to do with government failure to pay what they asked fertilizer importers to supply in 2020 and 2021. As we stand, most of the fertilizer companies that we spoke to are not sure whether they will do fertilizer under the subsidy or not. And if that is not done, it's going to actually be very difficult. The cost has more than quadruple, more than 5 times the cost of 2021 cost of production. So those are the things that we are looking at. And then we just hope that from now until June, we are going to get some intervention from government, especially Ministry of Finance, because the problem has to do with the failure of Ministry of Finance to release money for payments of these importers. And if that is not done, the situation in 2023 will even be worse than we are experiencing now.
Is the situation only bordering on the issue of the subsidy arrears? Are there other factors of production that government is not necessarily paying attention to?
Yeah, there are several factors. You see, if you are talking about production, there are several factors that come together to ensure that we are able to produce. One has to do with the cost of land preparation, cost of plowing, cost of agrochemicals, that's weedicides, herbicides, pesticides, and what have you. Cost of fertilizer is just one of the factors. Cost of post-harvest management. So if you look at all these factors, apart from the land, which is there for us to go and produce, and then the hope for us to get rains from God, all the other factors of production has increased. Agrochemicals, for instance, in 2021, were buying the 1 liter of glyphosate for 25 Ghana cedis. Today it's going for 60 Ghana cedis. Tractor service was around 120 to 150 Ghana cedis. As we speak, it's going for 250 to 300 Ghana cedis. If you take a post-harvest management, we are yet to know the cost, but it will definitely increase. Now, that's one area. Apart from that, even transporting the commodity from where we produce the farm gate to the nearest market, to the urban area, to the cities, cost has also more than 3 times increased. So all these factors we put together, we will shift those factors to the consumer. We are doing it, it's not because we are trying to make abnormal profit, but we are just trying to remain in business. Because if your cost of production in 2020 was around 1,700 Ghana cedis, and today, the same acre for 1 acre of maize, the same cost of 1 acre of maize is going for 3,700 Ghana cedis. You can imagine, every businessman will not like to actually produce and sell at the same cost. We also have to save the cost to the consumer so that we can remain in business.
So for now, what's the option for government?
The immediate option for government is to actually to release money for payment of fertilizer importers. That's one.
Besides, and I'm sorry for cutting through. I'm sorry for cutting through. The fear is government is already dealing with some issues, bothering on raising revenue. There are expenditure challenges for government at this moment, and some economic experts predict the government may not be able to spend more on subsidy. So if that's the case, can't we consider something else to save the situation?
Yeah, so we have actually considered several factors, but we think that government needs to play its part. We think that in the worst case scenario, we don't expect to see our agriculture sector budget being cut down. But as it stands, the information I got from the Ministry of Finance, the budget has slashed drastically. Apart from the percentage of subsidy being reduced, even the quantity that is subsidized has also drastically reduced. So if you look at actually the agriculture sector, I think we suffered more compared to all the other sectors. Even with the 20% cut, if you look at the percentage cut for that of fertilizer, it's more than 50%, and that we think that is unfair. If you look at all other countries that depend on the agriculture sector to drive the economy, in crises like this, they rather move money from other sectors to support farmers. But in our case, we are rather drawing money from our agriculture sector to support other sectors, which we think is not an option to consider. On our own, we have considered several factors, including the option of using the organic fertilizer and organic manure. But how much or what quantity of organic manure can we gather? The liquid organic fertilizer we are considering as an option. The quantities in the market currently is inadequate to reach all of us. And we need to actually combine the organic liquid fertilizer with the granular chemical fertilizer to be able to get the results that we are looking for. So we have considered several factors, including even shifting from commodities that consume too much fertilizer to those that take less fertilizer, like the leguminous, the tubers, that takes less fertilizer. We are considering all those factors. Look, but there are certain commodities that we can't do without. If you take maize, for instance, if you cut down maize production, it will affect poultry. If you cut down soya production, it will affect poultry. So, and these are crops that actually consume greater quantities of the fertilizer. So we just think that government need to do something if you want to actually stabilize the economy.
And how soon are these urgent measures needed?
Yeah, it's needed now because the southern sector, last week I was in the Volta region, and I realized that most of them have already planted. The middle belt, like the Chima, Nkranza, Ejra area, Atebu, they've all planted, and very soon they'll need a fertilizer. Northern part of the country, they are still waiting for the rains. Any moment from now to the end of this month, we'll be planting. And in the early first to second week of June, we actually need to apply the fertilizer. So I think the time is now. And what I think the Ministry of Finance should do is not just to close their eyes without showing indication when they will be making these payments. They should at least invite these companies, promise them and tell them that, look, this is the time frame, this is the payment plan that we have for you. But before we even do that, go ahead and start distributing. But all those things are not done. And the Ministry of Finance are not actually showing any interest. They are not seeing this as urgent. And that is our worry. We have occasion of talking to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, and then we actually try to understand the angle they are coming from. We saw that they are anxious to ensure that we get the fertilizer, but they are powerless. So we think that we all need to add our voice to ensure that the Ministry of Finance do the right thing.
Obviously, as the ministry approaches the matter with urgency, there's also the question about the Planting for Food and Jobs program. What you are warning us of goes contrary to what it is that government was projecting with this policy. How come it's not yielding a significant result which would impact on our food security?
Okay, so one thing I've observed, apart from the weaknesses that we have been talking about, you know, you have a global trends. Globally, cost of food item has increased, and the food that we are purchasing in the market is not only what we produce here. If we take rice, for instance, there's a global increase in rice prices. The quantity of rice that is produced and consumed in Ghana is less than 50%. The rest, we get it from imports. If we take maize and soya, we also have our neighbors who compete with us. So it means that if you have quantity for our own domestic consumption, and then we have others who are competing to also buy, the farmers have the option to also sell for the highest bidder. So all these factors come to play. Now, if you talk of planting for food and jobs, planting for food and jobs, to yield the results we are looking for, have to be backed by money. So if you are a government that is coming out with a policy and you don't back it with finances, I mean, you won't get the results you are looking for. So that alone is a threat to sustainability of planting for food and jobs. And for us to be able to sustain planting for food and jobs per the resource that we have seen over the years, we need to ensure that we commit more resources and ensure that we also close the implementation gaps that we've seen in the past. And if that is done, with time, we, the farmers, are already preparing. We know there's no way. With time, government will have to exit in some of the input subsidies. But we think this is not the time. For now, looking at the global challenges that we have with some of these inputs and mechanization, government should rather turn its focus on devoting more resources to support the sector.
Dr. Charles Nyaba, I'm grateful that you've been able to join us here on the Pulse. Obviously, we'll be continuing with this conversation some more, because there's a warning coming through from energy experts as well on our energy security. All that and more is coming up right here on the Pulse. Please stay. We'll return after this short break. And you're welcome back to the Pulse. Now, a lot of reactions is greeting the alarm or the alert coming through from the Ghana Peasant Farmers Association, warning of an imminent food shortage here in the country. Joining us now is Dr. Kojo Kusi, Senior Lecturer at the School of Agric at the University of Cape Coast. Also, Isa Udrago is founder of gov't, an agro-social enterprise. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. So here we are. The Ghana Peasant Farmers Association is indicating clearly that we need to take drastic measures to deal with this. Let me start off from you, Dr. Kusi. What would be that first step towards addressing this problem? Dr. Kusi.
Okay, all right. Good afternoon, and let me greet you.
Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon, and let me take the opportunity to greet Cherish. Yeah, food insecurity is really true that it is possible that Ghana, we can enter into that crisis. But once we've been alerted by the association that
Dr. Kusi, we're
this thing can happen. Then security doesn't come from
Dr. Kusi, we're losing you intermittently.
Hello?
If you could just make the point you were making earlier.
Okay, so what I'm saying, please, can you hear me now?
But your line keeps breaking. Yes. It appears that there's still a challenge there. But Isa Udrago, if you're with us, your association has been monitoring this development as well. What figures do you have, or perhaps what's the situation looking like in terms of our food security? Isa Udrago, if you can hear me, kindly unmute so we can get the point you're making. Isa Udrago, if you can hear me, I'm asking you to unmute so we can hear the point you're making. Dr. Kusi, let's see if the lines to Dr. Kusi is better now. Dr. Kusi, if you can hear me, you're making the point about how we could avert this.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that breakup. What I'm saying is that food insecurity is not just one cause. There are so many things that come to play to bring about food insecurity. So some have been mentioned though, but there are still others that we can look at. We have a climate change issue, which is not Ghana's problem, but it's a global issue. And then food wastage and then the agronomic practices itself that we practice in Ghana. All these things bring about food insecurity. And so if we don't try to solve this issue holistically by taking them and seeing that which ones are immediate, which ones are later, we might not be able to do that. For example, in Ghana, we produce maize, and the yield of maize we do in Ghana is about 1.8 tons per hectare to 2 tons per hectare. That is far less than the normal one that they say that the estimated yield can be around 6. So what is causing the actual reduction in yield of maize in Ghana? So we need to look at the yield gap. If we try to bridge up the gap, then definitely we will be able to go there. It is not only fertilizer. For example, when farmers are cultivating their maize, they usually use a planting distance of about 80 times 40, which we see other countries not doing that. China is doing 65 by 15. So when we put all these things together, you realize that we can do a lot, but in terms of agronomic practices, these things must be checked. In terms of climate change, which is not Ghana's problem but a global one, we need to educate farmers, educate the populace about how they can curb or they can reduce the global warming so that everybody is waiting for the rains. It has come somehow in April. We don't know whether it's going to continue from this time to about July. If it doesn't come, we are in trouble because Ghana, about 80% of our farmers solely depend on rain. So if it doesn't come, then we are in trouble. So another thing we can do is to try to do rainwater harvesting, create some dams in some farms, and then all that. Because if farmers are not getting water to irrigate these crops, it is going to be a critical issue. So that's about the agronomic practices and climate change. One other aspect that is going on is that in Ghana, our food preferences are changing. For example, those days we were eating cocoyam, we were eating taro and other cassava and all that. Now our food preferences are changing. So when people are not consuming cocoyam again, farmers wouldn't cultivate more cocoyam for us. Here is a case where we are depending so much on wheat for bread production. We can diversify so that if other food products, like some percentage of cassava, like millet, another one can be used for bread, then we can try to diversify a bit so that when other ones are not, for example, the war in Ukraine and then Russia has caused us so much because the importation of wheat is not coming again, or the export of wheat from that place is not there. So the price of bread is going to increase. But if we have diversified earlier that we can add certain food substances in our food, definitely we can rely on what we can produce here in Ghana than to rely on what we are going to import. Rice production is on the increase now, but prices are higher because of the fertilizer they use and all that. Now, fertilizer that was sold at 170 Ghana cedi is now about 300 and over. So these things are the factors that we must put in place so that whatever they are envisaging that there's going to be food shortages, we can at least find a way out. At the immediate term, what we can do is to train people to reduce food wastage. When you go to the market and people are selling vegetables and all that, you realize that most of the marketers throw away most of these vegetables. So if we are trained to reduce food wastages, well, I don't think what we are producing in Ghana is that low. It is able to feed us, but the wastage is also taking much of these produce we have in Ghana.
Dr. Kojo, I'm grateful that you've been able to join us here on The Pulse. Now, is Ghana heading for a fuel crisis? I'm sure you heard Chairperson of the General Transport of Petroleum and Chemical Workers Union, Bernard Owusu, here on The Pulse yesterday, indicate that there's a crisis which is looming. What will it take to avert this crisis? We'll hear from a policy analyst shortly on this matter. Well, he's joining us now. Peter Tekpe is a policy analyst. He understands what's happening on the markets. Peter Tekpe, here's the case. First of all, help us understand this. Do we know where we are headed clearly? Does the concern that we have just 6 weeks of strategic reserves, what do you know about that, and what's the implication really for our situation? Peter Tekpe, can you hear me? Well, it appears we're having some challenges reaching Peter Tekpe. This is The Pulse. We'll return shortly. Please stay.